Good evening. Our March 9, 2023 meeting of the Longview City Council is now called to order. Tonight, the prayer and pledge will be led by the East Texas chapter of the American Red Cross. Members of the Longview High School Red Cross Club, Joey Huff will do the prayer, and Divya Nirmal will do the pledge. The organization and its volunteers help neighbors in need by providing care after emergency, supporting military members and veterans, and many other humanitarian efforts. Please rise.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you today in humility and faith. We thank you for all you've given us and the many blessings in our lives. We ask for your guidance and your strength. Lord, I pray for peace, love, and kindness for our community. Show us the way and fill us with courage and wisdom. Help us to remember your love and grace and to be faithful in our service to you. Give us the patience and understanding to face life's challenges with grace. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all so much for participating this evening. I'm now going to read a proclamation for American Red Cross Day. Whereas American Red Cross has requested the mayor by proclamation to recognize March 9, 2023 as American Red Cross Day in the city of Longview. March is National Red Cross Month, and we celebrate the humanitarian spirit of the city of Longview, Texas. Caring for one another is at the heart of our community and exemplified by the residents of Longview. The Red Cross provides help and hope to people in need. The support of Red Cross and volunteers are critical to our community's resilience. Let us continue to honor the Red Cross founder Clara Barton's noble words that you must never think of anything except the need and how to meet it. And so now, therefore, I, Andy Mack, by the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Longview, to proclaim March 9, 2023 as American Red Cross Day in the city of Longview. I would like to have the Executive Director, Ms. Karen Holt, come up and receive this proclamation. And Karen, if you want to bring your crew, you're welcome to. This is for you.
Thank you.
Come on up, sir. Come on up. Well, I mean, this is kind of semantic. We all know how important the Red Cross is to not only our community, but everyone that's in need. When you need them, they're always there. Karen, you and your organization do such a great job, and you just uplift the spirits of those that need it the most in the time of their greatest needs. So thank you all for your participation, for young people getting involved. It's important to get involved at your age, so you're at their age, you're doing what they're doing. So I appreciate all the involvement and all the support, and we're just thankful Longview has such a great Red Cross in our community. Thank you so much for all you do, Karen. Keep up the good work. Thank you all. Not hard. Thank you all so much.
Thank
Keep
you.
up the good work, gang. Thank you. Thanks, sir. Good to see you, sir. Thank you. We're now the citizen comment. I do have one speaker card, Mr. Jim Martin.
Well, I know y'all missed me down there complaining, but Wednesday you had an employee to come out there to my shop,
Mr. Martin, excuse me, 1 second. State your name and address, please, sir.
Jimmy Martin, 4305 Nadina. The address I'm talking about is 4201 Gilmore Road, Jim's Trim Barbershop. An employee of the city come out there and told me if I didn't take my my flag, move it, he would pick it up and take it. And I come down here tonight, and there's one right there by the Enterprise flying. Excuse me. Is something that they just, some of them people don't like about me? Why don't they come to my face and tell me? Because they definitely wouldn't like what they got. I'm tired of being abused, and that flag hadn't hurt nobody. It helps business. And if y'all want all the little business to go out of town, why don't you tell them to move out of Longview where y'all can go broke? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin, Mr. Shirley will be happy to visit with you after the meeting and get this thing cleared up for
I'm
you.
not gonna waste my time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're down to public safety update. Chief Boone.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. McPhee. First, just want to cover our notification numbers for last month. We had 6,300 notifications that went out to our end users when they would call in for assistance. And then we had our surveys that followed that as well. And just to show you for our officer satisfaction, it was 4.72 out of 5. And on our dispatch, we're at 4.74 out of 5. So again, continue that trend. Very proud of that, proud of our officers on that. Also, we had a chance to engage with some of our youth. We were invited last week on March 2nd to participate with the Longview Library with the Dr. Seuss event that they had. So you can see there we had several of our officers. We had our Lieutenant Rocket, Sergeant Kepke, and Officer Easley reading to the kids, and that was a good, well-received event, and we appreciate being invited. And then today, the Pilot Club of Longview had their annual readathon, and they invited us to Birch Elementary with Pine Tree ISD. And again, we had some of our officers that were there and participated in reading and trying to get kids interested and keep them interested in reading. So again, thank you for that invite. And then next week, Parks Department will be sponsoring their second annual Kite Fest, and we will participate in that. And we will have a recruiting booth and our child ID program out there as well. So if anybody wants to bring your kids out for that, plus having the opportunity to fly some kites and all that fun, please come out there next Wednesday, the 15th. And then also, I just wanted to show some pictures as we're getting closer, coming to you soon. This summer, we will have the new police department, so we are definitely getting excited about that. There's a little drone shot of the front there on the there to the left, and then on the right side, there's a picture from on the back side. And of course, you know, for police, got to throw a little bit of blue on there. So again, just thank everybody for supporting us on that, and it's just great to finally seeing it come to fruition. And with that, well, actually, and also with the new PD, you need some more new officers as well. So if you are interested, we would love to have some men and women sign up and join our police force and help us break in the new building. And with that, I'd love to answer any questions.
Any questions of Chief Boone? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chief Steelman.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. McPhee. Thank you for the opportunity to give you a few updates on some things that have happened in the fire department since our last meeting. I wanted to start with an update on all of our bond projects. So we finally have some activity going on all 4 of these projects. Certainly the one you're probably most familiar with is Fire Station 5 out on the west end of our city. It is up and operational. It's down to the point of where we just have a few minor punch list things to complete to make it fully operational. And it's mostly just waiting on things to happen or to come in. And hopefully as soon as we get those things buttoned up, we can do some type of a formal grand opening or a ribbon cutting. We're looking forward to that within the next couple of months. Fire Station 8, if you've been out on the north side of town, out around George Ritchie, there's actually a lot of work going on out there, even though this one's had quite a few delays because of the rain and the wet weather. It has begun to go vertical with steel, and the CMU blocks are being installed, and hopefully they'll start making some pretty rapid headway on that one. And we're looking forward to seeing where this one is going to take us. Our fire department, phase 1 of our fire department and public safety training field out in the Longview Business Park. You can see a lot of dirt work and some slab work has been done getting ready to erect the training tower on that pad. And this is part of the thing that will help move us out of the Stamper Park neighborhood and give us a training facility out away from anybody so that we can do the type of training on the reoccurring basis that we need to and not disturb anybody. So we're really looking forward to get this one up and going. The next activity that will be out there is our railroad tank car safety course. You can see some tank cars back in the background. So we'll be out there utilizing it then, and hopefully they'll have that burn tower up and running, and we'll be able to do some live fire training out there in the very near future. And last but not least, Fire Station number 7, the 2711 Gilmer Road. We're in the final points of the design phase on it. We're kind of doing the programming of how the rooms will lay out and what fits where and best flow and all of that. So hopefully we'll be coming forward with some blueprints pretty soon to get the construction and the contracting part of that one underway. So it's exciting to have movement finally on all 4 of these projects. Earlier this week, we had the opportunity to assist the city of Gladewater. We're fortunate here in Longview that we have some very highly trained and highly technical expertise in some of our personnel. They actually had a problem with their city water system where they had to do what's called a confined space entry into a very restricted area to do some repair work. The Gladewater Fire Department reached out to us to see if we could assist and make sure that the employees that were going down in that area were doing so safely. So we were happy to reach out and help them. It's a great opportunity to network and work with another municipal fire department and just make sure that their employees are able to stay safe doing their job. Also, earlier this week, we had the opportunity to participate with a career day at St. Mary's School. This is always a great opportunity to sit down with a group of kids and maybe plant a seed into their mind that a career in public safety is the right move for them. And they're at that age where they're really trying to figure out where they're going to fit in later life. So it's great. We appreciate St. Mary's for opening their doors and having us come in. I know Chief Green did a really good job of selling the fire department and the benefit of how fun it is and what a great career it is to serve the citizens of Longview as a member of the Longview Fire Department. So we look forward to doing that anytime with anybody. This weekend is the annual time change, or one of the 2 annual time changes that we undergo. So we encourage people with the spring coming to spring forward on your clock. And while you're setting those clocks, be sure to put a new battery in your smoke detector. If you have working smoke detectors, if you need some help with that, reach out to our fire marshal's office and we can provide some assistance for people that live here inside the city limits. And last but not least, we're still continuing with our Stop the Bleed training. Our next class will be next Tuesday the 13th at the training center. The information's on the slide there. If someone would like to reach out, this is free training that might save somebody's life. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Chief Stillman? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
We're on a consent agenda. Any items council like pulled off for separate discussion? If not, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now to zoning, a public hearing held to consider application Z23-01. Ms. Choi.
Thank you, Mayor Mack, members of council, and Mr. McPhee. The applicant is requesting a specific use permit for a restaurant with a private club in general retail zoning district. A specific use permit is required to serve alcoholic beverages on site in addition to beer and wine in general retail zoning district to ensure no negative impact on surrounding properties. Staff finds the proposed zoning change is consistent with our comprehensive plan. Planning and Zoning Commission, along with staff, recommends approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
This does require a public hearing, which is now open. Any questions of Ms. Choi? Public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing held to consider application S23-02. Ms. Choi.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting a specific use permit for a restaurant with a drive-through window in general retail zoning district. A specific use permit is required for drive-through windows in that zoning district to ensure no negative impact on surrounding properties. The applicant is proposing to construct a convenience store with a drive-through window. Planning and Zoning Commission, along with staff, recommends approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
This does require a public hearing, which is now open. I have a speaker card from Joe Hart with Johnson Pace for questions, if anyone has any. Any of Mr. Hart or Ms. Choi? Public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing to consider application Z23-05. Ms. Choi.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting to rezone this property from heavy commercial to two-family zoning district to allow for the construction of duplexes on this property. Planning and Zoning Commission, along with staff, recommends approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer questions at this time.
This requires a public hearing, which is now open. Any questions of Ms. Choi?
Did they submit a pre-submission plat?
Not yet, no, sir.
How many would they be allowed to put in there?
The zoning district, TF2, I believe, allows for 50 by 100 lot size, so about 5,000 square foot lot. I'm not sure what size of a lot this is, but I think approximately 3.
And if somebody hits a home run, it's going into the duplexes,
They might.
correct?
There's a possibility.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions of Ms. Choi? Public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing held application Z23-06. Ms. Choi.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting to rezone this property from general retail to single-family 5. Currently, there is a house on this property. And there also is a dance studio. The dance studio is vacant. The current property owner would like to revitalize this house or renovate this house into a single-family home from a dance studio. So they are requesting a zoning change to single-family 5. Planning and Zoning Commission, along with staff, recommends approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer your questions at this time.
Public hearing is now open. Any question, Ms. Choi? Public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
And the second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing held to consider application M23-01. Ms. Choi. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Shirley.
Thank you, Mayor Mack, members of council, Mr. McPhee. This is an ordinance that would amend our Unified Development Code. As you may remember, over the last several months, going into this year, sent out a memo to council updating them on our plans for revising the code due to omissions, clerical errors, and then some of the significant changes dealing with sidewalks and the proposal for fee in lieu of. You may also remember back in February, I made a presentation to council outlining those changes. Since that time, we presented those changes to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And at that time, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval. And so we're here to ask for your consideration to approve those changes, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
This does require a public hearing, which is now open. Any question, Mr. Shirley?
Absolutely.
Miss, one at a time, please. Ms. Gamboa?
Mr. Shirley, I have 3 questions. The first one is, will there be an application process to be eligible for this fee in lieu of? And what is the criteria cited in the staff report? To my understanding, the in fee of lieu of, this is not for everyone, correct? Just people who fall under certain criteria?
Correct. So there will be a process. There'll be a formal application just so that we can track that for formalities and track it in our system. As far as the standards that they would have to meet, give me just a second, and I think we have that on a slide. And these are standards that we tried to craft that would be very wide open to allow for a lot of situations where, if there was no curb and gutter, if it was a roadside ditch, where it might be a little difficult to build it, or if we know, there's changes coming in the future, and I can go, there's 6 on the screen, I'll go down through those. If there's, as I mentioned, if there's no curb and gutter, or there's no sidewalks in the facility, and it's unlikely that there would be any, so if it's like a mid-block or something like that. Also, installation of sidewalks would require the removal of protected trees or other major obstructions within the right-of-way. Topography would require a retaining wall to accommodate the sidewalk, or if the city plans to construct public improvements in the area which would result in damage or destruction to the proposed sidewalk, then they could pay that fee in lieu of, or if there's unusual circumstances that make the sidewalk installation requirement impractical. And so it wouldn't be a waiver of the requirement. What it would do would be, it would allow them to just pay the fee. The city would bank that fee in a separate account that would only be able to be spent on sidewalk infrastructure based on our sidewalk plan, and it would be part of the Public Works capital improvement programming. Those dollars could be used to leverage other resources, such as other grants and things like that, to where we could go in and make a larger impact with more sections of sidewalks, similar to what you're seeing along Loop 281 right now, where TxDOT has leveraged our desire for sidewalks and our bike and ped plan to install sidewalks from Highway 80 to Gilmer Road down both sides.
And is there a fee associated with the application itself? If so, what is it? And if they did get approved for this, would it be reimbursable? to
No,
the
there's no
applicant?
fee. No, it's just
Okay.
an administrative process, so we know who, what, where, and why, and that we can track that because, and I think it may have come up at one of the last meetings where, you know, if somebody goes in and does a development, they pay the fee in lieu of, and then they come back a few years later and the site plan requirements would be required, would we require them to build the sidewalk again? And no, that's not the intent. It would be kind of the one and done. So we would also want to track that so that that property would be, would already be banked on that.
Thank you. And just my last one is, what is the price when we say fee in lieu of? Will this be measured by square foot, or is it a flat fee based on if it's residential or commercial property?
Sure, so it's not a flat fee. It would be based on if it, and this is primarily going to be, your commercial projects, but there may be some residential redevelopments. It's really not intended to be for like new residential subdivisions where the developer is going to install the sidewalk or have a plan or a bond in lieu of that. But it would be whatever the prevailing estimate is, so it would be based on their engineer's cost estimate that they're required to give us for their fee structure. So whatever that amount is what they would pay to us. So it would be what the real cost is that day.
Okay, I just saw some other cities as well have been dealing with similar issues, like the city of Houston on January 25th just passed a similar ordinance, and theirs was dependent on square footage. So I just wanted to make sure we were looking at other cities that are implementing it and making sure that we're
Correct.
cross-referencing it.
There are a number of cities that are dealing with this, and there's a wide variety of way. We just felt that it was more appropriate to look at what the actual cost was so that it was consistent and equitable. There are some cities that just do a standard cost and make it a part of the fee. The part of that, though, is that construction costs are changing daily, and so rather than have to come back to city council to adjust that fee, because it would be a council authorized fee structure, so that we wouldn't have to do that, it would just be based on whatever that cost estimate is at that time of construction or proposed construction, to keep it simpler.
Thank you.
Mr. Carpenter, you had a question?
Michael, I had this discussion with you, and I'm going to have it with the council. I understand where we're trying to go, but you're not giving the developers, if they're putting a fee up in lieu of building the sidewalk, what advantage would there be for them not to build the sidewalk if it's the same money?
Sure. And so the feedback that we have gotten and what was kind of the guiding light for this revision was not the issue or the discussion about whether we need sidewalks or not, because I think, from my opinion, that question was answered during the comprehensive planning process. This was really more addressing the comments and concerns that we've seen in social media and other outlets about sidewalks to nowhere. And how do we address that? And so this is really the way that you deal with that. It's more of a perception issue than it is a principle issue. And so it's dealing with that, giving them an opportunity to say, well, I'd rather, or if there's site constraints, for instance, it's not saying that sidewalks aren't required, but we're going to let them pay that fee in lieu of, maybe they just don't want to deal with building the sidewalk because of all the constraints. They can pay that fee, and then we can leverage those dollars to put sections of sidewalk in and have a bigger impact if they choose to.
Well, I understood you to say the fee in lieu of construction is the same as the cost of the sidewalk.
Correct. Everybody would pay the same fair share, and it's not an advantage, it's an option.
Well, but it adds cost back to the development. That's where the sidewalk to nowhere issue came from, is because you put in 4 lots on McCann Road and you're a quarter of a mile to the fire station and you're 650 feet back down to Springfield Cutoff.
Sure.
It happened on Eastman Road this lap between the time you brought this to us. You've got a beautiful sidewalk that probably cost in excess of $10,000 that is going to nowhere on each end.
Sure.
So I don't see that we're getting anywhere. What I think the direction should have been is if we weigh that by looking at the case situation as opposed to just saying, well, we're going to take your money. Because quite frankly, on the surface, this is Robin Hood. We're going to take it from developer A, we're going to put it in a fund for future use that Public Works or you guys are the gatekeepers on. And that's not fair to developers. The reason they asked for the sidewalks to nowhere relief was because of the development cost that was incurred.
Sure, and that kind of gets into the philosophical question of do we require sidewalks or not? And I think during the comprehensive planning process and through the implementation, the majority of our citizens said we want sidewalks, and the best way to get that is to require the developers to install that as part of their development process, rather than passing that on to the taxpayers as a whole through bond projects and things like that, that we can get it done quicker. This is just a way to address the perception of the sidewalks to nowhere. I think that would be a whole separate issue that we would address.
Here's what I see of that, which, Tim, I understand what you're saying. but we have to look long-term. We can't look short-term at just one developer. Because say the one developer doesn't want to put a sidewalk because it doesn't connect anything, and then we say, okay, don't put it in, and we have nothing for it. But then right next door, a year later, someone puts another development in, and they had a sidewalk, they connect to that sidewalk. That's how you get connectivity. And if we don't have a fund to go back and replace the sidewalk he didn't place in the first place, then it's up to us or the taxpayers to put that sidewalk in. The only way you'll ever get sidewalks in Longview is to be consistent and say, this is what the citizens want, and this is how you get it. And if you don't do that, then the burden will come back upon us as a city to put sidewalks in where we gave someone permission not to put the sidewalk in. And I understand it's a development cost, but that's the cost of doing business if you want sidewalks in the community, unless we're going to have a bond election, like Mr. Shirley said, every time we want to put sidewalks up and down our streets, and I don't think that's our intention. So I understand that it's not an advantage to not put them in. I agree with what you're saying. But if we don't have something where we can go back and put them in, if they connect to something else a year from now or 6 months from now, we lost the ability to have that sidewalk put in. Does that make sense?
But in the cases that I've stated around the city, and I know where 4 of them are, the issue is they are connecting to already developed property. They will never put a sidewalk in if we,
But just like tonight, we did in zoning, we rezoned 2 areas that were already developed. Okay, that's already developed property. Well, if we don't require sidewalks, then that already developed property doesn't have to put it in either. And that has to be part of the mission, is to put in sidewalks where we can, whenever someone does a development or a remodel or whatever you want to call it. Otherwise, you'll never have connectivity. That's like saying we don't want to repair one street because it doesn't go anywhere, but it does to those people that live on that street. It's a dead end, but it still makes a difference to those people living on that street. So we have to look at the entire city and say, the only way we're ever going to get it is if we start now. I wish we had started 30 years ago, but we didn't. So I don't know that there's a better solution. If there is, I'd like to hear it, but I don't think there is a better solution than to start and be consistent with what our plan is.
Well, I do know that most of the builders and developers aren't for this because of the cost. I see both sides of it. When we get to lower income or affordable housing, this really impacts this. It doesn't impact somebody paying $500,000 for a house that much, but somebody trying to get in for $150,000 to $180,000, it does. And you know, it does impact that a lot. And that cost is how you're going to determine that cost. Concrete goes up and up and up. Do we go with what concrete costs in January in labor, or do we go with what it's going to cost in the middle of the year with inflation and everything?
It would be at the time of submittal, so whenever they submit their plans,
Yeah, but how do you know what that cost is, Michael?
so they have to submit an engineer's opinion of cost from a design engineer, and our engineer will review that to make sure that it's consistent with market prices. And that's what they do on every project currently, every public project, every private project. That's the process we do.
But you're basically talking about commercial properties at that point. You're not going to have an engineer come in and tell you what, for instance, Dr. Mack's subdivision, if somebody wants to go in there and do something and somehow it falls under a deal, he has to put a sidewalk just in front of his house. And the whole subdivision hasn't it, but just him. Or there's one lot left in that subdivision, you're going to require a sidewalk in that
No,
one lot.
that wouldn't fall under the rules to require it. It would be if they're subdividing property, and then if it fell under the requirements where it was enough, where they were creating enough lots to where it was going to dictate
Well,
compliance with that.
for instance, out on McCann Road, out by the post office, there's 3 houses right there. That's a state highway. But the builder had to put in sidewalks across that.
Correct, and
And
she
they'll
applied
never,
for a
if the
variance
state
on that
decides
as
to come
well.
in 20 years and redo that street and make it, a 4-lane road just like George Ritchie or something like that is, then,
Yeah, and
it'll have to be tore up, and are we gonna require them to redo that and do it as sidewalks all the way through at that point?
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions in that. In that particular case, that was a primary, in our sidewalk master plan, that corridor was a primary deficit area. And she actually applied for a variance, and the zoning board of adjustment said, no, you have to put in the sidewalks. We hear what you're saying, but she did go through that process. So, but because of the constraints on that one, she actually dedicated right-of-way onto her property. So if the state comes back and widens that, and they have to acquire right-of-way, they'll be required to reinstall that sidewalk, so it won't be her or whoever the owner is. But that was labeled as a primary need corridor.
Mr. Carpenter?
So as I understand it, McCann Road, let's use that one for an example. If this ordinance was in place, would it had to go to zoning board of adjustment? Or would you have been able to make the decision the way it's written?
So there's two questions there as well. One is, do I even have to do sidewalks and thus be required to pay the fee in lieu of? That's the question that the zoning board answered unanimously, I believe. Yes, sidewalks are required. And then the second question is, sidewalks are required. Instead of me building it, can I pay the fee in lieu of? In that case, under that question, then that would be an administrative approval that I could approve, and then she could pay the fee in lieu of. And as I stated, we drafted the criteria fairly loosely so that there's a lot of flexibility to allow that fee in lieu of. Because whether we're getting a sidewalk now or in the next few years, leveraging those dollars to get that connectivity and that walkability that our citizens desire is the important piece.
And I agree with that, but I see no sense in modifying to get to the same result. If it was gonna cost them $8,000 before and it's gonna cost them $8,000 now, where's the end benefit? There is none.
Is it time?
I don't think this, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think this isn't meant to benefit anyone but the citizens of Longview by providing sidewalks. This is not meant to benefit a developer or a residential person. This is meant to benefit the city of Longview. So it's an ordinance. It's like we have every ordinance we have. We don't bend that ordinance to benefit one particular group of people because the ordinance is meant for the entire citizenry of Longview. So I don't think we're not picking on anybody. It's just it's a development ordinance that we have in place to hopefully one day have sidewalks as many places as we can in our community, because everybody wants sidewalks. We just can't afford them everywhere. So this is just a starting point to make that process a reality way past my lifetime and most of ours, I'm sure. But if we don't start somewhere, we'll never get to that point. It's not meant to punish or benefit. It's meant a certain group. It's meant to help the citizens in our community and what our city looks like in the long run.
Can I make one more comment?
You may.
As I was doing some research, I saw that other cities that implemented this did a structure of 70-30. 70% went to the sidewalk fund and 30% would go to road infrastructure rather than doing like the patching problem, like fix whole things at a time. And I just kind of wanted to make the comment that I'd like to see something similar mirrored here to kind of tackle two issues at once. Thank you.
Any other comments of Mr. Shirley?
Well, no matter what we do here, it's ultimately going to be passed on to the consumer. It's going to be passed on no matter what. The builders and developers are going to tack this on to the end of their project, and it's going to end up costing the public one way or the other. I agree with sidewalks. I like them. Fairmont, hey, that's a dream. I use it all the time. Well, I had been using it all the time. But like I say, I can see it going in if we go in and do a new street or something like that. But when we're just piecemealing it in parts and pieces, for instance, on the loop, do we know whether Bruce Evan, their sidewalk, is ever going to be tied into anything else? Is that in the future with the state?
Sure. And
Just like it is on down on the other end
Yeah.
of the loop.
And that one brings up a good point, because all over town, when we redo intersections, part of that intersection improvement is making that sidewalk connection, even though there's no sidewalks there. So in that particular instance, they actually connected and did the first phase of that sidewalk leg. They tied into the crosswalks and intersections that the state put there years ago. So, as far as their immediate plans for connection, I don't know. There's not anything, but who knows when that's going to redevelop or when the state leverages dollars to connect into it.
They're going down Gilmore Road now.
Yeah.
So how far down Gilmore Road are they going to go?
They're going, I'm not sure about the Gilmer Road piece. The Loop 281 piece, they're going from Highway 80 down both sides to Gilmer Road.
Okay.
I'm not sure on the one on Gilmer Road.
They've already started a little bit past the intersection.
Yeah, I know they're doing.
On the north side.
They did some at the intersection of Highway 80 and Eastman Roads. There's 3 or 4 locations that they're doing sidewalk improvements. I just don't have all those details as far as the limits of them, but it's because we have that requirement and we're taking an emphasis on that, that's allowing them to leverage their dollars as well.
But those are state funds. Those have nothing, or federal funds, one or the other.
Correct.
Those have nothing to do with city funds.
Yeah, but they're TxDOT discretionary funds, so they could put them elsewhere, but they're choosing to put them into sidewalk infrastructure because we have told them that's important to our local community.
I just
Yes,
wanna
sir.
chime
That's
in
right.
And just comment that I believe in and appreciate the fee in lieu of construction of the sidewalks. I feel like ultimately, especially in District 3 in South Longview, we don't have enough sidewalks, and the development that's happening there, if we can have some emphasis on making sure that there is an approach made to building sidewalks there. So I'd just like to go on the record saying that I do appreciate and I do think it's a good idea.
Let me ask or make a comment attached to what you're saying, right? Michael, in the future, this money is sitting here, this sidewalk bank money. Who determines when it's spent and how it's spent and where it's spent? Is that, you're the committee of?
Nope, that's going to be Public Works, and I'm sure that there'll be a committee put together to review that, but it won't be just our discretionary thoughts. We have an approved bike and pedestrian plan that was funded by our MPO and adopted by the City Council as a guiding document. We'll use all of our adopted long-range plans to make those decisions, and then we'll look and see, I'm sure, and I'm just guessing, but we'll look at what the available funds are to see if we can leverage that for grants, and if we can't, then we'll look and see where we can make the most bang for our buck based on where those needs are. We'll look around, see where the pig trails are and where the most needs are based on public comment, and it'll be based on well-thought-out, long-range planning.
I would assume that those funds will be utilized appropriately as you've suggested, and I'm assuming every council person will have input as to where those funds are used in their districts when they find areas that you can use those connect where there is no development and where there would never be someone putting a sidewalk in other than us. And so those monies should go to excellent use through our community and start, like I say, start this process moving forward where we can at some point, be proud of all the sidewalks that we have around town. But unfortunately, you just have to start somewhere, and this is a starting point that I think is, it's like anything else. If you don't use it, if it doesn't pertain to you, you don't care for it too much. But it's got to be for the whole citizens of Longview. Just like in the bond election, some people said we don't need a new park. Well, that's because they don't use the parks. But the people that do use the parks, it's important to them, and it's important to the whole city. So you have to look at the entire picture, not just one little section, unfortunately. But I think this is a very positive step forward for us to move into the direction where the citizens have told us, and we are the stewards of the citizens, that this is where they want to go. So this is a very good solution, I think. So thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr.
I
Purdy.
do have another question. Are we considering the CIP
Yes,
on any of these locations?
Yeah, that'll be part of the CIP process. I mean, it'll be, when we review that for those, short-term projects.
Our CIP, this is in the CIP, right? I mean, some of these sidewalks are in that projections for the future.
I'm not following you. I apologize.
Some of the sidewalks that you will consider are already in our
Yes,
CIP
yes.
project list to date.
And part
Yes.
of this that I don't think I mentioned before but didn't hit on, we're also going to be requesting general fund dollars to put into this account as well. We're not just going to ask developers to fund it with the fee in lieu of. We're going to put dollars in there to help fund that as well. So that'll be part of the CIP process, and that CIP thought for sidewalks will be where it parlays out of.
So will this extend past the city limits? Past our reach at any point? Will it extend to new subdivisions or something being put in that we have within the 3.5 miles?
No, because we don't have the ability to go, those won't be city right-of-ways. So
Okay.
those, and I would say 99.9% of those developments are gonna be residential. So they already have a set of standards. They only have to put it on one side of the road. They can delay, basically already do the fee in lieu of with a bond for up to a couple of years, and then delay that installation until driveways and things like that are put in. So they already have some.
So if somebody goes out on airline and decides to put in another subdivision, we still have jurisdiction to make them put in these sidewalks?
Correct. If it
Within
falls under our
within our
jurisdiction in the
ETJ.
ETJ, they would have to meet our sidewalk standards. They just wouldn't be eligible for the fee in lieu of, because the residential subdivisions are already, they will already have that ability to delay installation of sidewalks with a bond.
Okay.
I just want to clarify one more time on record that I would still like to see most of these funds used for sidewalks and road infrastructure. I get wanting to put it in other places as you and the committee or whoever sees fit. But I would just like to reiterate one more time that I think the number one goal of the fee in lieu of for our municipality and others is to revamp our sidewalk and road infrastructure.
Yeah, and I'll just clarify, the intention and what we will be dedicating that fund will be only for sidewalks and pedestrian pathways. So whether that be sidewalks, side paths, or complete street participation, it would only be for that type of infrastructure.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion?
Move to.
Is there a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Let the record show we have a 4-2 split on the vote. Mr. Carpenter and Mr. Perla both voted no. Thank you. Motion does carry though. We got action items. Consider a resolution appointing Mr. Robert Ray as our new city attorney. Mr. Ray will become our new city attorney effective now that he's sitting in that chair now, because Mr. Finley has so retired, and we appreciate that opportunity to have Mr. Ray taking Mr. Finley's position. So, council, any questions of Mr. Ray? If not, I need a motion.
Did we do election item?
We'll do that in a minute. Is there a motion?
I do have a question.
There's a question.
Okay. Maybe we need to wait till the next item comes up, but my understanding is I want to retroactively do this, pay right now for both men. Same
We're going to
pay.
discuss pay at our next council meeting under
I
executive
know,
session.
but I want this on the record that whether one takes an office now and one takes it next week or 3 months from now, I want that pay to go in for both now at the same time.
Okay.
Because negotiating that salary is between them and the city manager, or between us and them, I guess.
Between us.
And I want to understand that was my understanding when we discussed this before, that both men would make the same salary, but my deal is I want them to both go retroactive at the same time, because even though one's sitting in a chair right now, the other one could be there at any time. We don't know that. But the other one has to go, some schooling I think he has to do. He has to be training someone else to take his position, whoever the city attorney puts in that spot. So I want them to both be on equal terms, because I think that's what we discussed, and I want to make that public out here with the rest of the council.
We can make it public, but we cannot vote on that. That's not on our agenda tonight. So we
Okay.
have to discuss that at our next council meeting under executive session, and we will come back out after that executive session, and we will make a vote once that is been
Okay.
accomplished. Okay? Thank you. So do I have a motion on Mr. Robert Ray being our new city attorney? Have a motion? A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We now have a resolution appointing Terry Jackson as our new municipal court judge. Mr. Jackson will become our new municipal court judge as of October 1st. Our Judge Merriman will be retiring at the end of his term this year unless he decides to retire early. But we look forward to having Terry Jackson as our new municipal court judge as our city of Longview, and we appreciate his willingness to do that job as well. Any questions on this action item?
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, both you gentlemen. Congratulations, and thank you for your service to our community. We look forward to many, many more years. We're now to items of community interest. I'm sorry, election item. Hold on, election item. Come on up. Consider ordinance canceling the May 6, 2023 general election to fill the terms for City Council District 3 and 4 and declaring unopposed candidates Ray Wade, elected District 3, and unopposed candidates John Newstead, elected District 4. Ms. Shepherd.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and City Manager. On February 23rd, I supplied each of you with a certificate of unopposed candidate for District 3 and 4. Since both of these districts are unopposed, we're requesting that we cancel the May 6, 2023 election. With that, we'll declare Ray Wade as our District 3 councilman and John Newstead as our District 4 councilman. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Ms. Shepherd? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Shepherd.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Mr. Wade and to Mr. Newstead. Look forward to working with both of you guys for the next year.
I make a motion to excuse Mrs. R.
Second.
Is there a motion? There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're now to items of community interest. Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you, Mayor. Once in a great time, or great things happen in Longview, Texas, and this is one of those times. This young man is Carter Terry, and Carter Terry actually led our pledge at my very first council meeting. Carter Terry is an Eagle Scout. He is very intelligent, but most importantly, he has qualified to go to the Lincoln Douglas national debate out of our state and our region to be held in Phoenix, Arizona, which is an exceptional honor. I don't believe that we've had somebody that's been able to go that far. This is as high as it gets, and so just real pleased to share that with you. The Pine Tree has a lot going on. Spring break, of course, is next week. We'll be glad to, I feel sure there's some teachers and parents that are just really excited about that. I know the folks at Disney World are really excited. And the fourth time that, so that's going on. We've got power lifters that are qualifying and just on and on, but the 3 students advanced in the Black History Month essay and oratorical contest sponsored by the Connect Group out at Texas Eastman. Just outstanding numerous awards, the math science teachers, state qualifying meets and arts, and just on and on. Today, through a friend of a friend, I had the honor of attending Birch Elementary and reading to the first graders, and it touched my heart. It was a Pilot Club benefit, and we had Ms. Gamboa, myself, Judge Stout. There was about 34 of us, I believe, there that were all reading along. The children just enjoyed it. I was enjoying it. And last but not least, next Thursday, Gregton is back on the food distribution list, first and third. That'll be the third Thursday of next month, 11 to 1. No reservations required. Just come and go. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Nottingham.
Good evening, everyone. Nothing really, just wanted to comment on the fact that spring break is next week. So guys, please be mindful. All students will be out. Stock your refrigerators. Do everything that you can to keep them comfortable and happy. And so happy spring break to all of the students of LISD and all staff.
Thank you, Ned.
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes, sir. I do have some things tonight. I want to thank the Longview Police Department for highlighting a portion of District 3 for their annual Project 365. The Longview Police Department works with residents and various city services to reduce crime, clean up, and restore one neighborhood each year through Project 365 in order to build a safer, cleaner, and caring community. In 2023, their neighborhood designated the Project 365 is bordered by Marshall Avenue South, Eastman Road East, and Alpine Road West. It's a great project, and thank you very much to the Longview Police Department. Second, I also want to thank Keep Longview Beautiful for planning Love Longview for Saturday, April 1st. Love Longview is Keep Longview's Beautiful Day of Serving, a community-wide initiative that encourages all residents to work together on one day to make a significant impact in Longview. This year, they're placing particular attention on the Project 365 area in District 3. And those are the areas that I just mentioned. So thank you for that, Love Longview. April 1st will also be an electronic waste recycling event from 8 a.m. to noon at Teague Park. To participate, you must fill out an online voucher. More information and vouchers can be found at longviewtexas.gov/e-waste, E-W-A-S-T-E, e-waste. Finally, I want to invite all men who want to make a difference in the life of a child to attend a men's-only new mentor orientation from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on Wednesday, March 29th. The Aspire Mentoring Program currently has 25 young men on the waiting list to receive a mentor. Thank you very much, Mayor Mack.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Gamboa?
Happy belated Women's Day to all the wonderful ladies out there, and thanks for making a difference. I wanted to say a great job to the Longview Chamber of Commerce and the East Texas Coalition. I got to be a part of the East Texas Coalition that went to Austin to learn more about broadband connectivity and what we can do in our rural municipalities to make a difference. Thank you as well to Michael Shirley, Director of Development Services, City Manager Roland McPhee, and former Mayor and Councilman for District 5, State Representative Jay Dean, for their input throughout the weekend. We learned so much, and it was great to see you guys there, as well as Judge Stout and Senator Hughes. Thank you so much, Chief Boone and and Officer Wallace, for the ride-along. I definitely learned a lot, and I'm sorry for dipping out after 5 hours. I will stay until midnight next time. And for those of you that want to participate, ride-alongs are available, as well as don't forget to apply to be part of our police department and our fire department. Councilman Carpenter and I, along with Judge Stout, were a part of Birch's Elementary Readathon, thanks to the Pilot Club, which they're sitting right there on the front row. Thank you, ladies, for inviting us out. Thank you to Ms. Rivera and Ms. Justice for letting me stop by. And it was great seeing Mr. Salceda, if you'll go back. He was actually my first teacher when I moved here from Mexico, and he taught me English. And he's retiring after this year, so I just wanted to give him a shout out. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Mr. Bertle?
Nothing from me.
Ms. McPhee? Nothing from me. The Kite Festival, the Longview Second Annual Kite Festival will take flight from noon to 6 p.m. on Wednesday, March 15th at Lear Park. Learn more at longviewtexas.gov/kite. Spring break at the Longview Public Library. Join the Longview Public Library from March 13th to the 18th for a spring break week full of free activities and family fun. Learn more at longviewtexas.gov/spring break. And the Parks Master Plan help us create a long-range vision for the development of our park system. Learn more and provide input today at longviewtexas.gov/Parks Master Plan. And that is all we have for this evening. Thank you all for joining us. Until we see you next time, God bless. We are adjourned.